Welcome back to Fertile. I'm M. Marigold, and as always, this is your sanctuary to uncomplicate your health, reclaim body sovereignty, and awaken your fertility. Dedicated to the radical woman who knows deep within her bones there is another way. So grab a tea, light a candle, and let's dive in. Hi everyone. So today I want to talk through a lot about heliotherapy and what it means to reclaim the light. It's a big topic. There's lots of debate around it, but I'm going to share today my own personal experiences and my opinion on the sun. So this comes from someone who used to be pretty scared of the sun. It was drilled into me from a young age that the sun was something to be fearful of. I have very pale skin, or I did have much more pale skin when I was younger. My grandma also experienced skin cancer. So I want to hold space for anyone who has experienced skin cancer or lost loved ones to it. I do understand that this can be quite a triggering episode in that respect. But what I want to do is try and just shed some light on it, and it could then open your mind to a slightly different way of seeing things, because it definitely changed my view on things. Really want to just move from the kind of blind fear that I felt to a more intentional way of being in the sun. So I used to burn all the time, and I was always very pink, and I still tend to flush and have a little bit of pinkness to me. I'm quite a pitta fire character, if you know what pitta is in Ayurveda. So I'll always have that aspect to me, which I've learned to love. But what I didn't love is not being able to sit outside for so long. I was always dealing with allergies and hay fever, and I was just so oversensitive. And I thought that was everyone else's fault. I thought it was the sun's fault. I thought it was the pollen's fault. And then through my studies over the last 15 years, I came to realize when I was on my own healing journey that none of these things around me were the problem. It was me. And that can be a really hard thing to admit. But it was not my fault. We don't do the blame game here. But I didn't know that the foods that I was eating or the things I was putting on my skin could be a contributing factor. So I'm not going to say that the sun causes cancer. I'm not going to say it doesn't cause cancer. But what I am going to say is UV radiation can directly mutate cellular DNA, right? If it's overexposed, right? We know that. But I don't believe inherently that the sun is dangerous. I think it's all about dose, like anything. And the same way it is in herbal medicine. Is it a medicine or is it a poison? It's always the dose. So it's not the problem being the sun itself. It's how our modern lifestyle has interwoven with that, right? It's what we eat. It's our diets. It's our interactions. It's how long we spend in the sun. We've lost a kind of natural rhythm with it. What I want to take you back to, and again, I'm sure if you sit with yourself and you can think about this, that the sun is our life, right? It's the original giver of life. And somewhere along the way, we've replaced our relationship with the sun with a culture of fear and avoidance. We see the sun as this dangerous thing that causes problems for us, but ultimately without the sun we would all die. It literally gives us vitamin D, which is our immune system. It gives all of our food, the plants, nutrition so that we can take on that nutrition. So I want to take you through a bit of the golden age, heliotherapy. Now, 100 years ago, hospitals literally wheeled their patients onto the roofs of hospitals with wheeling their beds out because they knew how much quicker their patients healed in the sun. Now, there are countless studies for this, and actually someone called Niels Finsen, he won the Nobel Prize for this, for light therapy in the early 1900s. I think it was 1903 off the top of my head. Don't quote me on that. But sunlight was prescribed at the time for things like tuberculosis, wound healing, rickets, things that were really a problem with the immune system. So sunlight isn't just vitamin D. I know we like to see it as that, but it triggers something called nitric oxide release, okay? And that lowers our blood pressure. It regulates what we call our circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle. It boosts our dopamine, feel-good hormones, and it primes our immune system. Now, so many chronic conditions are where we've had an issue in the gut, and we've got a lot of autoimmunity starting these days. Pretty much everyone seems to have some sort of autoimmunity or an immune issue, which is causing all these dysregulated systems in our body. One of the main ones that I work with is endometriosis, which is, in my opinion, an immune dysregulated disorder. So we knew that heliotherapy was a thing. And along the way, we kind of just forgot, or if not, have been steered into this direction to avoid it. Now, I have so many different thoughts about this. And part of me thinks, like, is it designed that way so that we don't spend too much time in the sun? Because sun actually makes us all feel so bloody amazing, right? Like, how good do you feel on a sunny day? Think about it. Everyone's playing music. I see people with their windows open. They're smiling. People you haven't spoken to for a while are suddenly like, hey, how's it going? They're like really on top form. Now, you notice this a lot more in the UK because we have a lot of cloudy days. It can be really heavy here in the winter months. We don't see the sun for a long time and it can feel very dark and depressive. And when the sun comes out, you see that it's such an extreme that everyone is suddenly, alive. So that should already start to get your mind open a little bit, thinking, oh, questions here. Okay, is the sun as dangerous as we've been told? Now, you can think about, the blue zones, Mediterranean, how natural light exposure directly correlates with mood and vitality. And this also connects with culture as well, directness, honesty, expression, how loud we are. And you see that in the places that have more sun. People are more expressive, they're open, they're loud, they dance, they communicate better. And so again, I don't see the negative side of the sun in that respect. So what I see today through the summer is people just fearing the sun, kids covered in toxic sunscreens. Their parents are just doing what they think is best. Obviously, they want to protect their children, so they're spraying them in all these toxins. And yeah, you can get more natural ones, but there is another element to that I will get to, why I don't agree with sun cream. I will put my opinion out there and explain why. You don't have to agree with me, but it's my opinion. So a lot of spraying of creams all over the children and all over you, and you think you're doing something that is supportive, but what if it's just, first of all, blocking a natural signal that your body has had too much sun? We're going to get to that. And two, what are all of those chemicals that lace and line your skin, which is an organ? What if that's reacting with the sun, with the UV, and triggering a reaction? Right? I'm thinking like in a science lab, when I did a science degree and we'd be in the lab, you'd add a heat source to create a chemical reaction, right? So in my mind, you put chemicals on something, you add a heat source, hey presto, you have a reaction. So that's just how my scientific brain works. Now, I want to shift your perspective slightly and talk about the skin as an active organ, because I think most of us just think of the skin as like this sheet that covers us and it's protective, but it's not. It's like a sponge. Anything you put on your skin goes through into your bloodstream. It just does. So whether that's lotions, whether that's you being in an area or being surrounded by pesticides or pollution, that's going through your body, okay? So what you put on your skin is really essential. So first of all, you want to shift from, if you are using sun cream, you're going to want to use a natural one, okay? Like, don't add any more toxic burden to your system, especially your liver, because we want to make sure that we're regulating our hormones and clearing any excess out through the liver, through the bowels, especially if you're dealing with things like PCOS, endometriosis with high androgens or high estrogens. We don't want to create any more toxicity that the body then is overburdened and it can't release that excess. So the skin being this active organ, it's an active metabolic organ. It's not like this sheet or plastic wrapper that I think so many people think that it is. So when you do apply synthetic chemical heavy lotions on the skin and then you heat it with the heat source, right? The sun, UV light, it creates what we call phototoxic reactions, which is sort of a clouded line between true UV damage and a chemical reaction. It's like, is it from the sun or is it a reaction with the sun, right? Very different, that is. Now, from someone that used to burn all the time, that's me. I'm going to share my story. always burning. But I did have a diet that was high in ultra processed foods, seed oils. I didn't have anything organic. No one, my family didn't know about that thing. That's that kind of thing. And it's okay. Just had like a normal food, right? In quotations, normal, highly riddled with pesticides. Just, yeah, lots of ready meals and preservatives. And that's just something that most of us grow up on. It can be very common, and we say it's normal, but it's actually very not normal. It's not normal at all. It's just very common. So our skin being also a big elimination channel. So anything that goes into your system as well, and you are also going to be sweating, is going to be released on the skin. Chemicals that are trying to be released through the body, a lot of them will go through the liver and the bowels and come out in a bowel movement, right? But also if that's a little bit stagnant, your body's going to choose other elimination channels. So the lungs or the skin to try and remove these toxins, this burden. So you can often, I'm sure there are lots of studies and people could even test their skin, right? You could probably find a way of testing, but there's probably so many toxins that are coming through the skin that are just sitting there on the skin from just a simple poor diet. My own experience with this was as soon as I started changing my diet, I changed my diet quite drastically and I cut out anything that wasn't natural. I went down to just very simple single ingredient foods, eating just fish and meat and veg and legumes and grains. And it was just that. I didn't buy any convenience food anymore. I homemade everything, eating only real ingredients. And I noticed a huge shift in my skin. And I didn't know this before. I didn't know that this was going to happen. But I noticed gradually that I was burning less. And I was like, what's the connection here? I learned a lot around seed oils and the rancidity of them. I know there's a lot of conversation and pros and cons around seed oils. I personally am not for seed oils. That's my own personal choice from my own experience of removing them from my body and seeing a huge change in my health. Because in my opinion, seed oils, while looking at it more scientifically, they oxidize. They go rancid very quickly, meaning they oxidize, so oxygen interacts. And then when something becomes rancid, when you introduce that into the body, that's when you get something called free radical damage. That's DNA damage. So I stay clear of anything that can go rancid too quickly. So I'm more inclined to use things that don't, right? Prefer more saturated fats personally. Tallow, butter, ghee. I do use a little bit of olive oil, but it doesn't go as rancid as things like hemp seed, sunflower, and rapeseed. They're oils that just go rancid too quickly, and I'm just not interested in using them in or out of my body. So stripping away those things made a huge difference, removing a lot of inflammation and actually increasing antioxidants, right? Antioxidation, those real foods were handling the oxidative stress. But then I also removed the root cause of that, which was a lot of things that I was putting into my body that were already rancid. So kind of targeting two angles there. So no seed oils and just eating real foods. Like, it's not that complicated, is it? And then moving on from there, the natural shifts I did in understanding sun exposure. Right. And again, with the UK, I would say, I don't know where about this in other parts of the world. I sense a lot of the northern parts of the world go through a similar thing where we can go, because we're an island as well, we can go from having quite cold weather, 15 degrees, and it can shoot up to like 28 degrees the next day. So we don't always have time to adapt. And then it can go to like a cold, rainy day again. Like it really is very hard for the body to climatize and adjust in this country. We're actually very adaptable because of that, but it is quite exhausting for the system to always try and climatize. So what happens is you spend like 8 months of the year in like darkness and cloud and rain, and then the spring comes and we can have quite high UV at that time. So this is the point where we need to learn from our ancestors. It's a big modern mistake that we haven't learned how our ancestors would have naturally adapted. I mean, part of this is because we spend so much more time indoors now. Whereas if you would spend more time outdoors, you'd get that kind of micro exposure, gradual exposure. Whereas most of us were working indoors and we suddenly just are so excited for the sun because we haven't seen it for so long that we'll just spend the whole day in it, right? And then that's the issue. That's where the body can't keep up. We can also do this in midwinter where we fly abroad, which again, the body just can't adapt to that. We just go somewhere tropical and spend like a week in 30-degree heat for like 6 hours straight. And your body's like, whoa, we were just in the winter. And I'm not saying don't go on holiday, of course, but it's learning how to expose it sort of more gently. So we can do that by gradual exposure. So whether that's daily or through the spring, we want to have just morning light. So we want to have the morning light, which is rich in what we call infrared and red light, which preps our skin cells for the UV that comes later in the day. So that morning light teaches our body, hey, we've got to start priming because the sun is coming out. So what you do, whether it's, say you're in the spring, you don't go out in the midday, or if you do go out in the midday, you're going to cover up. So you go out early morning, even if it's not that warm in the midday, okay? The UV is still high, so we learn to just go out early, cover up at the midday, and expose our skin in the afternoons. You can also do skin exposure if it's quite cold in the very early spring or the end of winter. Even if it's cold, just get your arms out in the morning. Your arms are like sun panels, to just get them out. Solar panels, like get your arms out just to get that natural exposure. Okay, gradual microdosing. This is what we want, okay? We're going to be slowly signaling for melanin production. Okay, this is the body's natural kind of umbrella, right? We want to start building a very gentle, slow tan, okay? Even if it's not like a proper big, strong tan, just like it's a prime. Like I've actually got a tan now after years of never having a tan. It's a tan for me, and it feels so good because I can go out in the sun and I don't burn anymore, which is not about the aesthetics. It's just not having that panic of, oh God, I can't go out. I need to cover up. I'm going to get burnt. So the gradual exposure is really important. And then as you move towards the summer, you still want to make sure that when you're in midday sun, it depends on your skin type, right? Like some people have got much more, darker skin tones, but also they like the olive skin, their skin loves the sun and they don't ever burn and they're okay. But I would say go out in the morning, and then if you are out in the midday, just get like a big hat, wide brim hat, or a loose linen shirt that you can just throw on. Make sure you're eating really good food, of course. And then if you want to use a little bit of oils, like I just use a bit of olive oil on my skin now. Sometimes I use a bit of tallow. And I'm just relying solely on that rather than on chemical barriers. So I'm using like a linen shirt, which is really the best barrier. I mean, it's so easy, just throw it on. Now, when you start, working with this rhythm, you'll start to see a huge change. I saw it within about a year of doing this. And I suddenly saw my skin just creating this natural barrier, and I just stopped burning. And I was like, wow. And we know that the sun's good for us. Come on, we know, like our hair grows longer. My nails grow so long in the summer and they go rock hard. My skin clears up. People who have got things like psoriasis and eczema, they know because the sun heals, it clears it up. Whenever they go on holiday, you go into the sea and then go into the sun, they have clear skin again. Dries up any kind of acne as well, and we just know how much it improves our mood. So there was something that I wanted to touch on about the loss signal. Now, it's easy to switch to just a natural sun cream, but I will urge you to have a little think about this because I did that. That was what I did. I went straight from chemical sunscreens to natural, but I was still burning. And I was like, what's going on here? Because I'm using natural sun creams. Are they just not working? One, I was vegan. And I will say, I think I had way too many seed oils at that time. And two, the sun cream I was using was still silencing the natural alarm within my system. Now, I thought by being in the sun all day, but covering myself in natural sunscreen, was going to be fine. But what it does is it creates a false sense of security, encouraging you to basically bake in the midday heat. And then you get what we call overexposure. And your biology just can't handle that. Now, something would happen to me where I'd get this delayed burn. Like I wouldn't burn all day and I'd be out in the sun, not burning, get home. And then about 12 to 24 hours later, I'd suddenly be burnt. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And it happened time and time again because I wasn't getting those early warning signs. I was having way too much UV exposure, thinking I was doing my body a lot of good by having the natural sun cream on, but then I was getting burnt. Like, it was like this delayed burn. So a lot of traditional sunscreens, they filter the UV rays or the UVB rays, which are the specific wavelengths that cause the immediate surface redness. So it blocks that. And what you want actually is that warning sign. You don't want to block that warning sign. So now what happens when I'm out in the sun and it's maybe approaching midday, my arm will start to feel a bit itchy and warm. And I'm like, oh, hey, my body's going, hey, here's your natural alarm, time for shade, you're at capacity. And then I'll just put a shirt on or go sit under a tree. And it's very simple. But before, I was just burning all the time because that signal had been blocked. It's really also about connecting with your body, right? Reconnecting with yourself, being more within your body, by building that kind of bidirectional relationship with your body. Our ancestors didn't have a bottle telling them to reapply every 80 minutes. They had skin sensitivity. They felt the micro shifts, the warmth, the dryness, the itch. They moved under a tree, put on a little tunic or whatever. I think we've just lost the ability to listen to our skin. And I think, again, this really does radiate out into so many different areas. We've really lost the ability to hear ourselves or listen to what our symptoms truly mean. It's a lot of what I teach my clients is symptoms as messages. Your body's not against you. It's sending you symptoms and signals to say, hey, something's up. Are you listening? I'm trying to share with you. You're in pain because of this, or you've got a headache because of this, or your periods are suddenly really heavy because of this. And it's trying to tell you. It starts off very small. It's the same in this case as well. Your body's going to make her feel a bit warm and itchy. So she's going to get out of the sun. It's too hot for me right now. And then you just completely block that and just reapply and sit in the sun even longer. And your body's like, okay, wasn't really what I was asking for. So we call this muting biofeedback, okay? It's the alarm bell, the UVB alarm bell. And so, yeah, I guess really my point here is just to reclaim intuitive exposure. Learning that the redness and the warmth and the micro sensations and the tingling are really just asking for you to just get out of the sun. I feel like we've moved into this kind of modern era where everything's become so overcomplicated in all aspects of the word. And we've also become a customer to everyone. Think about it. We are sold everything. We're sold shampoo when we never really needed it in the first place. We were told that we need to shampoo our hair. But actually, our hair washes itself. It's the same with deodorant, right? Same with deodorant, same with shaving. It's the same with sun cream. Like, it's just another thing that people want to sell you. And if you kind of start seeing it like that, like, oh God, you've become a customer to everyone. Like, stop being a customer to everyone. Just go back to being a human. You've been told to buy all these things. You've been programmed. It's just propaganda. You've been programmed that you've been taught that you need and programmed to believe that you need these products, right? You need foundation and you need this. And I mean, shoes, hilarious. I mean, I obviously love shoes and I wear shoes. I'm not like complete hippie wearing barefoot all the time. But that's another thing we've been sold, that you must wear shoes because we've concrete and made pavement slabs, right? But actually we can just walk barefoot. It's hilarious when you start to dig deeper and you think about these things, all the things that you've been sold or missold. And then you start to go into the whole tangent of realizing that actually you could save so much money as well through all of these little shifts of maybe I don't actually need that thing that I thought I needed. Maybe diet isn't that overcomplicated. Maybe just sitting in the sun could really solve a lot of my issues. How good do we feel when we just go and take a moment, step outside and get in the sun and just recalibrate? I mean, it's why we go on holiday, right? So this is really what our elders knew. Okay, a little summary before we close. Micro moments, spring preparation, right? That morning light, rich in infrared light and red light, which most of us, let's be honest, are going out and buying red light boxes and infrared saunas and all these things. Just go out in the morning light. Ayurveda has been saying this for thousands of years. You go out into the morning light and stare up at the light. You don't stare directly at the sun, but you stare at the morning light. We have gradual exposure, right? So we spend more time outside. So in the springtime, when the UV is not as high, our body is starting to get that gentle exposure and priming it, signaling that melanin production needs to begin, right? That's the protection that's beginning on our skin, which eventually will build a tan or a gentle bit of color. For me, it's not really a tan. It's more like some freckles And yeah, a light tan, a very light tan. Then we always make sure that we have hats and shirts and things nearby just to throw on, or like a big dress. You know, a lot of the time I notice in the UK that we're by the beach and some of the beaches have like absolutely no shade. And it's crazy to me. Like, why have you taken all the trees away? I mean, it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? So gradual exposure, morning light, and then a diet, very simple. I mean, it's the human diet. It's not a diet, it's the human diet. Every being has a diet, and ours is simply eating real foods from the earth that haven't been adjusted or adulterated by humans. It's just what the earth gave us, okay? It's really not that complicated. Now, again, I want to just acknowledge and honor and hold the space for anyone that might be going through skin cancer or have lost loved ones to it. I'm completely with you on that. Like I said at the beginning, my grandma has experienced it throughout her entire life. And she's always drilling it into me like, you're going to get skin cancer. You need to be careful. Da, da, da. And I'm just going to move from that fear into a more intentional way of being with the sun and building that relationship. Again, I'm not saying that the sun does or doesn't cause cancer. I personally just want to reframe it into understanding why there might be that reaction, the UV radiation and mutating the cellular DNA. Yes, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I guess I'm questioning the narrative behind that. Like, is it purely from the sun? I'm not sure. Is it possibly us and how we interact with it? Probably. So using that kind of framework into many areas of our lives, thinking, okay, stop putting the blame in everything outside of ourselves. We don't want to blame us. We don't want to blame everything around us, but can we just be a bit more intuitive and think about it and go, hey, could I perhaps be playing a part in what I'm doing? Could my habits or behaviors be doing something that I wasn't even told about or didn't know about? You know, it's being accountable, isn't it? Okay, thank you so much for listening. I really enjoyed talking through this with you. I've been wanting to talk about it forever. I feel like there's a big fire inside of me that just, when I see everyone covered up in the sun, it's hilarious. And you just think, guys, come on, have a bit of sun. We know how much the sun is good for us. Come on, don't we? Don't we? So I send you a lot of love and I will see you in the next episode. Have a beautiful summer. Bye.